Ready, hot!
You've had so many good plays and you've done so many good things. Whenever you've gotten in trouble, it seems to be outside the pocket. Talk about either your bad luck there or whatever's happening there with you, that during your career, that's when things seem to not go well for you.
Yeah, just haven't been very good at it, you know. Not very good at taking care of it, that's for sure. I have a tendency to run with it with one hand, you know, and so that makes it easier for the defense to kind of strip it and things along those lines. So just have to make that a focus of every week, moving around, keeping two hands on the ball, and making sure that it's high and tight, and just not putting it on the ground anymore.
You're also in your nature, you want to make a play. You've made plays all your life, and somehow you're going to make something happen.
Yeah, I mean, typically that's how I like to play, you know, and you got to find that fine line of being overly aggressive, but you also can't play scared, you know, so there's a really fine line between those two things that you have to kind of walk as a quarterback.
Landry, what did you mean in the post-game press conference the other night? You said something about practice, saying we've got to change our practice habits, we just went through the motions, or something to that degree.
I don't know if I said motions, but just changing our practice habits, just changing the way that we do things, and just being more, I guess being more focused in practice on extremely little, small, detailed things. And like Coach Stoops always talks about, being precise and things along those lines. Those are the things that we have to really focus on in practice, putting our hand in the right place, getting our eyes to the right area of the field to make different reads and things along those lines. So just those little things that you might overlook in practice, those are the things that we need to really focus on.
So it's not a matter of effort, it's more a matter of adjusting what you're doing out there? I mean, because the first feeling is, the reaction is, hey, they're not practicing hard.
You ever been to one of our practice?
No, I'm saying the reaction from the fans to that comment was, there must be a problem with practices, that they're not going very hard, and you're saying that that's not an issue.
No, it's never been an issue around this place as long as I've been here.
I mean, how would you compare how you're playing now versus the end of 2010 when you had that unbelievable streak? It's Oklahoma State, Nebraska, Connecticut.
Yeah, just feel like I'm kind of underachieving in that area, and definitely for this offense to go, I have to get a lot better. There's no doubt about that.
Do you feel like you need some confidence back? I mean, how would you pinpoint getting back to that level in 2010?
Just kind of relaxing and playing the way that I know I'm capable of, and not trying to make anything happen out there. Just let the game kind of come to me.
When you look at that, I've watched some of that Nebraska championship in 2010. You had all different kinds of receivers, Kenny and Hannah and Rattery, and they had big plays to Stills, and obviously had Ryan. But was that, when you look back on that now, what was more comfortable about being in that offense than what you're in now?
Same offense, really. Still running no huddle, still doing those things. Just different personnel, different people playing. But I mean, it's not a factor of, yeah, I wish we can go back to 2010, or I wish we had the guys that we have now back in 2010. Just different things like that. They're two different years, and they're two different players, you know, and not two different players, but two groups of different players that we had back then. And we got the guys that we got now, and I'm fully confident of those guys that will pick it up. And you know, in the last couple of years, I mean, it seems like every time then whoever wins the national championship typically has one loss, you know, and you're going to play good teams throughout the Big 12 and throughout the country. And just for us, it just happened really early in the season. But I mean, we're not just going to be like, well, that's our season. You know, we're going to move on, and we've been in this position before, and we're going to get after it a little bit in practice today, and we're going to get after Tech, and we're going to try to play some good football.
So after the one loss, you're saying that you still feel you're in the national championship race?
Why not? I mean, typically every year there's a team in that race that has one loss. Last year it was Alabama. I can't recall who it was the year before, but it usually is people with one loss that get into that game and play really well. So we're still in it. All our goals are still out in front of us. This season isn't over, and we're getting back to work.
Bob said that he couldn't foresee a spot in which he has to take you out of the game and go with somebody else. But given how sort of critical you're being of yourself, are you comfortable with the idea that you have to earn your way week in, week out?
I mean, that's kind of a question for the coaches. They're going to do what
Well, are
they
you
see best.
comfortable that, I mean, I'm trying to ask you.
What do you mean?
Given how critical you're being of yourself, I mean, do you feel like you've got to play well or not too poorly anyway to maintain your position?
Yeah, I'm not really for sure. I think maybe if you could ask Coach Hype that question, that would be a better one for him.
Landry, both turnovers came from you trying to force a play that really wasn't there. Why do you think you're trying to force these plays? Do you feel pressure to get something going offensively because you guys have sputtered a little bit in the early going? What would you attribute that mindset to?
Yeah, maybe a little bit of that. Maybe just trying to make a big play down the field and not just taking it and not being patient. So it's just one of those deals that maybe getting too greedy on what's actually out there, and there was a little space to throw to Kenny, but I mean, I'm sure there was a little bit better space out wide to Justin there on that play as well. So I think it's just a combination of being patient and just kind of taking what the defense gives me.
Landry, where's your running game at right now? Is it where to the point that you feel confident that when you want to go to it and you can, or you need to run it more, that it can help your offense?
Yeah, I mean, we got great backs. We got an offensive line that knows what they're doing. So all the components are there to have a great running game. And thus far, we've had a really good running game. We just kind of got caught in a bind where we had to play from behind a little bit. So we went to the pass game a little bit more.
You have, all these players on your offense, and Bob's in here getting asked about why this guy doesn't get it more, why this guy doesn't get it more. Does it kind of make you scratch your head that the offense isn't clicking, scoring more points, getting more yards when you do seem to have so many different guys that could be playmakers?
Yeah, you do scratch your head. You wonder and you think, and it drives me nuts that we're kind of underachieving right now. I feel that, especially from myself, that definitely been underachieving this whole year, So, but it's one of those things that we played a good team in Kansas State, and we made mistakes that put us into a position where we couldn't win the game. Like I said, I think in the postgame conference, you have a fumble on your own 5 or 6 yard line, they pick it up and they score. You have a pick, and then that pick ends up in them scoring a touchdown. So that's 14 points right there. And like against a team like Kansas State that does so many good things on offense and defense, it's tough to just basically kind of give them those 14 points and give them that lead going in there, So it's just kind of one of those deals.
A lot of people say you're better when you're running tempo. Why are sometimes you guys run up tempo and other times it doesn't seem to be as quick?
I think it's you can't run tempo the entire time. We just get gassed out. We wouldn't have enough at the end of the game. That's why we like to do it in spurts, and I think Coach Heupel does a good job in doing that whenever we feel like we need to create some momentum. He does a good job of picking up the tempo of things, and we start get to rolling, and I think that's kind of his style of what he likes to do, and he's been doing a really good job about controlling the tempo and creating some momentum for us.
Landry, one of their defensive guys after the game said basically that they had prepared all week to flush you out of the pocket to pressure because they didn't think you liked pressure, and they felt like they could force you into mistakes. How do you respond to that going forward with all the defenses you guys are going to play? I mean, there's 6 top 25 teams left on the schedule, and I'm sure they're looking at that game film thinking that they can do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, I proved them right, So I'm just going to have to get back to work and start to get back to the basics of moving around and making plays when I have to move around still.
Landry, can you describe schematically or philosophically the difference, how you attack defenses when you're under center, as opposed to, you know, some advantages that you might have not under center, and how those two things come?
Yeah. I mean, advantages of being under center, obviously the one is that you don't have to look at the snap for a split second whenever the ball snapped. Disadvantages of being under center, you're closer to the line. It's a little tougher to protect. So I think there's just some different things that both of them are good, and both of them have some disadvantages as well.
Is that something you think might help at this point, after, you know, the evaluating all 3 games? Is that something that would help this offense and yourself as well? If you're looking for positive changes, right? That might be something.
Yeah, I mean, it might be something we look at. I don't see us really changing a huge deal of what we do. You look at the other night, we had, 5 or 6 drives inside the 15, 20, 10-yard line, you know, and we come out with 19 points. So that's the big deal of the games, of us just really just not putting it together when we needed to put it together.
Does that necessarily make a team more effective running the football? I mean, if all the things are equal, if all the linemen are the same and the backs are the same and the quarterback and the passing schemes are the same, does being under center provide any kind of advantage running the football or not?
No, I mean, I don't think there's much of a difference between under center and pistol. You're still getting the same downhill. If you want to run stretch, if you want to run inside zone, you're still getting the same type of downhill running game in the pistol as you would under center.
Landry, the pass that you missed to Green, I think it was a tight end. Did
Yeah.
you have an open window, or was there did you have someone up that you
That's
had
just-
to throw it where you did?
No, that's just one of those deals. Like I said, I didn't make enough plays out there to put us in good position to win the game. You know, when there's a play to be made in the red zone, you got to make it, because there's not too many opportunities to get things back like that.
Moving forward with Sterling, knowing what you know he can do in games now, how does that help the offense moving forward? Does it maybe give Kenny a chance to be outside a little bit more where he likes to be?
Yeah, it just gives us more flexibility in what we want to do, and just gives us more depth. Say if Trey or Justin gets tired or whatever, we can kind of move Sterling in the slot and put Kenny outside to give him a spell. And then if Kenny gets tired, we can move Sterling back in there too. So it just gives us more depth with him being out there.
What did you think of the 4 wide set? I mean, obviously you practiced it all week. Did it work out
Yeah.
like you thought it would, or as well, or would you like to see it continue to progress?
Yeah, I thought we did a good job with it. Sterling did a great job in coming there playing the slot position, and then Kenny came in and was our 4th wide receiver. So I think those 2 guys did a great job of feeding off each other and really working hard in practice to get the mechanics down and everything that they needed to do.
Was that something that you had looked at a little bit in the preseason, or is that something that you and Coach Hype had worked on in the off week?
I think that's what the coaches wanted to kind of do, a new wrinkle for this offense, to put those 4 wide receivers out, just because we have a lot of wide receivers that have a lot of talent.
Landry, have you watched the game yet, or any of the highlights?
I haven't watched the game. We're going to watch it as an offense and here in just a little bit.
You've taken a lot on yourself, since you didn't do some things. What's your mental makeup to come to deal with that in terms of just bouncing back? You got an extra week to actually hear about it and get ready for the next game.
Yeah, that's the nature of how I'm kind of made up. I expect a lot out of myself, but at the end of the day, whenever things don't go your way or anything like that, it's one of those deals you learn from it, and then you got to just put it behind you.
Landry, with so many young players and first-year players on the team, how much do you think they're watching how you are handling this early season adversity?
I think they're watching me some. Just being a leader on this team, they, I don't know if necessarily look up to me is the right word or anything like that, but I started looking to me just to kind of see where we're going with this offense and what we're going to be. And so, I mean, we've been in this position before, and we've come out with a lot of good seasons. I mean, that 2010 season was a really successful year for us, and we had 2 losses on our record. And then in 2008, we go to the national championship, and we lost to Texas that year. So this isn't foreign territory for us. We've been in this situation before, and we're going to bounce back, and we're going to play some good football in the future.
Do you feel like you are close to being at a level at which you can think about running the table or very far away? I mean, do you have to get a little better to be very good, or do you have to get a lot better to be very good?
A little better. A little better to be very good.
Landry, are you seeing the field the way you would like to at this point?
Yeah, at this point, yeah. I think I'm seeing things well, and it's not like I'm not seeing what's going on down there, but I definitely am forcing it into tight coverage a lot of the time, especially down the middle of the field, and that usually leads to some interceptions, so I got to learn from that. Got to learn where I can put the ball and where I can try to make, or not try to make plays, but take what the defense kind of gives me.
A couple of times, a couple of throws, a couple of plays, looked like you were leaving the pocket early or stepping away from pressure, maybe early, maybe too early. Is there a tendency when you put an emphasis on something like that in the offseason, improving your pocket presence, improving your ability to move and push away from pressure, is there a tendency to try to make that happen when you shouldn't? And is what we saw Saturday maybe evidence of that? Trying too hard to put that offseason training into play?
I don't think so. I think in a game, it just, you see things and you feel things and you try to move off of it, so typically most of the time I'm not looking ever at the offensive line. I'm trying to see down the field, and you feel flashes of color, and you try to move off of the color that you feel. And so pocket movement is more off of what you kind of feel and what you kind of see in your peripheral vision than actually seeing what's going on up in front.
Coach Shoops told us that he hasn't really talked to you, and that at least he's not going to tell us what he said to you, but would you tell us what Whitney said to you after that game?
What, Whitney? She was just behind me. She was whatever. I mean, she's great about not criticizing, not critiquing, not saying, hey, you should have thrown the ball here or there, whatever. But she's always great, just kind of being behind me and supporting me in whatever I do.
Do you criticize her games?
Oh no.
You should have got that rebound.
Yeah. No, we don't. We try not to do that in our household.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right.